So in college, I actually went to public schools and taught teens and kids about conflict and conflict resolution. And one of the games we used to play involved pairing up all of the students and placing them on either side of this long line of tape that we put down the middle of their classroom. Now, each of the students would stand on one side of the line with their partner facing them. And we told them that the point of this game was to get your partner to come to your side of the line without touching them. It's very important to say that without touching them, especially in schools. Now, as soon as we would say go, the classroom would be filled with voices, some offering lunchtime bribes, come over and I'll give you my Oreos. Others trying to convince them of the relative merits of their side of the classroom versus others. Others of them, threatening the other person, which not the best, but definitely a part of how humans try to engage conflict. Now, if you think about that exercise, how many people do you think succeeded? I'm looking over at gallery view. How many people do you think succeeded? And you can put in the chat in convincing their partner to come to their side of the line. 31% was our first guess. Wow. 231%. That's kind of amazing. 25%. The answer was hardly a soul. Usually, the only person that can convince their partner to cross the line was the person who couldn't care less about the game and would literally walk over, sometimes even unprompted, because they didn't care. Even in such a low stakes environment, something about the game created this sense of, no, I really want to get you to do this. After they tried to convince each other and the game was over, my co-facilitator and I would arrange ourselves just like they were, one on each side of the line. And we would say to one another, hey, would you like me to come to your side of the line? And the other person would say, well, only if we both switch sides. And then we would kind of do our way across the line. And the students would be in an uproar, like, you can't do that. You both lost. There's something about our brains, be it biological or taught and retaught by society, that we often get stuck in that fast thinking that Gretchen spoke about a few weeks ago that says, for me to win, you have to lose. And in conflict, we can be so determined not to lose or so determined to win that we make the mistake that the other person is our true opponent. In that game, the instructions were not, you must remain on your side and convince the other person to come to yours. The instructions were simply, convince the other person to come to your side. Now, for the kids, this was a lesson in negotiation, about finding win-wins, about going deeper into what's important. But I think for us, especially for the 69% of conflicts that are not solvable, this game reminds us to ask ourselves the question, what game am I really playing? Who is my real opponent? Because the real opponent in the game is not the other person, but the problem that is presenting itself before the two of you. And in relationships, while the problem may well involve the other person, it may require acts of repair and reparation, apology, and commitments to future change. When researchers looked at conflict between couples and workplaces and spouses, they found that those that used conflict as a source of growth versus those who experienced conflict as destructive had one major difference. Those that used it for growth perceived the conflict as a challenge to be tackled together instead of a problem located in the other person or in themselves. That what separates us into using conflict for growth is when we see the conflict as a challenge to be worked out together. not a moment to fix or change the other person. In our most close and intimate relationships, often where conflict arises most deeply, we make a promise to go somewhere unknown together, not knowing at the beginning of our commitment the cost that intimacy will extract from us. And yet, something compels us to go on that journey. Conflict is a part of that journey. When we say I do, when we have a child, conflict will be a part of our journey. And the question for us when we look across to the face of someone we have committed ourselves to, be that in a romantic relationship with a partner, with a child, with a dear friend, a family member, the question we should ask ourselves is is the commitment I am making for this person to be my long-term opponent or my teammate for whatever life throws at you? Is this person going to be my teammate or my opponent? I want to end with these words from John O'Donohue. They come to me in times when I'm in conflict myself. Now is the time for one of you to be gracious, to allow a kindness beyond thought and hurt, to reach out with sure hands to take the chalice of your love and carry it carefully through this echoless waste until this winter pilgrimage leads you towards the gateway to spring. Amen, and blessed be.